I'm just checking there. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Hello and good morning and welcome to Chaturday Live. My name is Jason Robinson and I'm your host for today's show. Obviously, we're not expecting everybody to join in straight away, but I will continue the show and obviously invite our guests on and people can catch up as well as is. So as you'll notice in the comment section, you're more than welcome to write a comment. If it is a question, please put the letter Q beforehand. And if any of our guests can answer it, we will get back to you, obviously, during the show live. So before we do go, obviously, into our guests, I would like, if possible, to take a moment to speak about something that's happened in the news this week. And something that I personally take very much to heart. Earlier on this week, the government had voted that school dinners in half term for children was not important and that, you know, parents should be able to fend for themselves in not so many words. Personally, I took that very, very to heart because I know from previous experience and I've witnessed people struggle very, very much. And it is 2020 and people still struggle and it is not fair. So I would like to give a shout out for Lowestoft Tandoori. Now, for those that live in Lowestoft and Suffolk and in the Norfolk area, you will know that in Lowestoft there's a little Indian restaurant called Lowestoft Tandoori. And yesterday they posted on the internet saying that no child should go hungry through the school term. And they've asked people to politely message them, inbox them or comment and ask for help. And they will make sure that they are fed. Now, that seems like a very small gesture from a very small company in a very small town, but it goes a long way. And since then, I have also seen other companies in the Suffolk-Norfolk area doing the same. And I want to say thank you and keep doing it. It is being appreciated. This all stems from Marcus Rashford from Manchester United making a big plea in the appeal online saying that, you know, he was going to make sure that the people in the greater Manchester area, and especially where he used to live, would be, you know, fed and looked after, and kids shouldn't be going without. It sounds like a soppy start to the show, but please be aware that there may be friends and family around you that are struggling or suffering, and it's not offensive to ask. It's better to know than it is to watch somebody go without. For those that don't know, I no longer live in Suffolk or Norfolk. I live in Cumbria, northwest of England. So obviously I won't be able to go down there personally and say thank you very much. But they probably will watch this video as I have contacted them and explained that I would mention it. So again, please give Lowestoft Tandoori a like on their Facebook page and show them a bit of support because they're going out with their own money and back pocket to make sure that kids in the local area aren't going without. So thank you very much for that. That little small spiel is over. I do apologise, but it means a lot. So on today's show, we are going from one side to another. We are speaking to Laura David, who's an NHS worker. She'll be speaking to us about her line of work, how she got into that line of work and so forth, but we'll go into that very shortly. And then after that, we'll be graced with the presence of a YouTube star. He probably wouldn't say that himself, but to me, I think he is very informative and his knowledge on motor vehicles and engines is not without. We'll be speaking to Mr. WooWoo883, and the reason for that name we will ask him later on as well. So for those that are watching, thank you very much. Don't forget you can add a question in the comment section and we will ask it live on air to one of our guests, not a problem. So could you please welcome to the show, Lady Laura David. Hello.
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm not bad, thank you very much. Thank you very much for taking your time out of your day to join us on the show today. I know that I do know personally other people that work in the NHS, and being able to take a time for a cup of tea and a biscuit sometimes gets a little bit difficult. So thanks very much today for joining us. So we'll get straight into it then. So if you don't mind just telling our audience your name, your job title, and where you're from.
Okay, my name is Laura and I'm from Lowestoft in Suffolk, and I work as an assistant practitioner for the primary care home team in Lowestoft, and I also do a few shifts over at the James Paget Hospital as well. Yeah.
So, right. So obviously, not going to go like beat around the bush with obviously the current situation, but we'll get to that. So your job role itself, then, obviously, because in the NHS there's more than just one job role. There isn't doctor, nurse. There are so many different roles that obviously revolve around the NHS that people are probably unaware of. So an assistant practitioner, what does that entail?
Well, we generally sort of specialise in reablement, trying to get patients back to their previous independence. If not, then sort of supporting them into like their long-term goal, whether it be long-term care or just a little bit of reablement, just to help them out for a few days if they, if they're unwell and they're no longer to do their activities of daily living. Then I would then go in and assess that, do a holistic assessment, and provide the support for them that they need. So that's generally my, my role, what I do.
Yeah. So from obviously what you told me prior to this conversation, so you do have to go and see people at their homes. You have to see people in their vulnerable state, well, hopefully not so vulnerable state, in their homes and out of the public. You're not surrounded by the four sanitary walls of like an NHS department or anything. You have to go to people's homes. Okay, let's get straight to the point. With COVID-19, has that now really made your job a lot harder? Or has it made some severe specific changes to your job role?
I think in terms of the community, we have, as a team, we have seen some rapid changes and quite an increase in our patient flow, as it were. We have had, obviously, patients are, during the pandemic, they are more safer at home than they would be anywhere else. So I think the hospital have been facilitating quite quick discharges, and in order for patients to be supported more in the community than they would do at hospital. And at the start, I feel that sort of had, we had an increase of patients, but also it was like a massive impact on our, as nurses, with our capacity, and we were quite stretched. But obviously during the pandemic has been going on, we've been able to work together and make sure that we're all supported in ourselves to then provide the better care for our patients.
So, right. So obviously with people having to be at home, we're obviously faced with a government's demand, if anything, rather than a request of social distancing, obviously 2 meters, face masks, hands, safe. The banner in front of the Prime Minister changes every day on what we should and shouldn't be doing, but obviously the basic guidelines are there that, distancing, masks, wash your hands. So when you're going to somebody's house and obviously going there to assess and if not treat them at the time, I mean, that's got to be, that's a difficult thing to do, isn't it? Because you're having to get within a close proximity of people, especially inside their own house. Is it something that, so I'm guessing that you're wearing face masks and protective gear every time you go into somebody's house. To be honest with you, it sounds like it's difficult, if anything, because do you feel wearing your mask in your visor that you're losing that personal connection with your patients?
Yes, pretty much. We've noticed a difference in our patients who suffer from dementia and those who are have impaired hearing. Obviously, with the masks that we wear, we're covered with our nose and mouth, and our communication is the best way to deliver the best care to the patients in order for effective care and things like that, and obviously just to keep them involved in the centre of their care, because that's, you know, the patients are the centre core of everything. So we are trying to look at other ways to better communicate with patients who wouldn't normally be able to understand what we say and things like that.
Yeah, I've heard things like that. They've tried advertising these face masks with obviously clear plastic or something through them, obviously, so people can see the mouths. I understand that for those that are hard of hearing, and say for those that don't recognise people's faces, it gives somewhat of a bit of a familiarity. Has that been taken any further forward? Have you seen anything like that personally?
Nothing in terms of being in healthcare. I mean, I've seen things in, like, you know, in hairdressing salons. They've I've seen some of those in there. I've seen it on the internet, and but obviously things have to be sort of tested by, you know, the by whoever the, like, and that, but they have to be risk assessed and everything. But also it's not just these masks that we have to wear. It depends on the patients. Aerosol generated patients, if they're on oxygen, if they're on a certain amount of oxygen, if they have to wear CPAP machines, we have to wear more advanced PPE for that sort of thing, because obviously with COVID, that's sort of airborne, and it's, you know, and people who have COPD and are on oxygen, they're more, you know, they're classed more at risk, so we have to wear more sort of, like, you know, the whole suit and things like that, and more like ventilated masks and that.
So do you look more like the people from ET at the end when they're all running in those big white suits then? You remember the film ET? You haven't got to go quite into the. Don't worry about it. That's all right. It's a horrible reference. I do apologise.
Every patient is risk assessed. So by a trained member of staff, if we feel that they need to be. Obviously, if they've got so many underlying conditions, then they are risk assessed, and obviously our staff are as well, because we have certain members of staff who can't necessarily go into patients who are suspected or who are positive. So in turn, we need to, the hospital, before patient is discharged, they have to have a swab within 48 hours for us to determine whether they would be, they're safe enough for our staff, and obviously for us to protect them and for them to protect us as well.
So if we go back, if that's okay, if you don't mind. So becoming an assistant practitioner, it's not something that happens overnight. And if anybody's obviously on there thinking about a career working in the NHS, it's a commitment on itself of education, let alone training. So if I was to say, right, tomorrow I want to be an assistant practitioner, that is my job, where do I start? What do I need?
I did a foundation degree in health studies. So working in the NHS, I think, opens a lot of opportunities for you. Your employers are quite good in terms of wanting for you to progress. So they then offer you, they would put out there, like, different degrees or different ways that you can study to progress in your role, or if you want to change your role, they would then support you in that way as well. It does help when if you've got a background in caring and things like that. For example, personally, I looked after my grandparents for a lot of years, so that's where I got my drive to work in healthcare. So I started off working at the James Paget in 2012 as a healthcare assistant, and got on and learned, from a healthcare assistant. I got most of my experience from there, learning off other healthcare assistants, and then I decided that I wanted to work in the community. So I then, in 2015, I then moved from the Paget to the primary care home team in Great Yarmouth as the same band as I was in the hospital. And then manager then at the time then said, oh, there's some spots to go and study for a degree in health. That'll give you the foundations to become an assistant practitioner, not only in health but in social care, so with social workers and things like that. And you can then branch off as you want to. So that's what I did, and then that's where I am now.
so there's a lot of stick internally and a lot of support externally about the NHS, such as that obviously the ongoing topic every year and every month, and rightly so, is obviously the amount of pay that NHS workers get. I mean, there's not enough money on this planet that you guys shouldn't be having, if I'm honest, because us guys in the UK especially, who value the NHS, would take it very much for granted. And, no matter what job you do in the NHS, you deserve to get more for it. But I think the argument is, when you're, like you just said there, once you've joined up and you are part of this so-called NHS community, once you are employed by the NHS, and again, that means any range of jobs, what you're saying is that they are looking after the staff that they do have, and they are offering workshops, training, courses, ways to improve. So as much as obviously the outside world think that, it's just like you're in one job 9 to 5, inside the NHS, you personally have found that you've been given opportunities to obviously improve your skills, would you say?
Yeah. I've had to like they advertise it through. We have like a comms, so where things like that are all, they're all advertised, they're all made available to people. It's up to you as an employee. If that's something you want to do, you need to reach out and you do it. The resources there, and every 3 months and every year we have a personal development plan where we have a line manager, and we can sit with them and have like a one-to-one, and then that's your opportunity then to if you want to progress in your personal development, that you then talk with them how you might do that, whether it's further training or further support from other colleagues and things like that. So they do, we are, as a team, in my team, I'm not really sure about others, but we always find time to help each other through whatever is needed.
Right. To be honest with you, I don't think I could possibly do what you do, because it just seems it's not for everyone. But I personally think you've got to have that special certain something to be able to cope in conditions. Because without getting too morbid and down, obviously not every day is a happy day at work, obviously. But all credit to you. If we get on to more wider range topic, so there'll be a lot of people out there that are still very confused about what they can and can't do around the COVID situation. Now, hospitals, is it okay for people to go to hospitals? Should people be staying away, or the NHS is supposedly it is open for business?
I wouldn't say it's totally. I think there are still some restrictions in place, because I think because COVID is still pretty much out there. I know it's taken this, it's sort of declined recently, but I think we are reaching another increase. So I wouldn't say you would visit hospital unless absolutely necessary. From what I understand, some hospitals have limited, if not stopped, visiting hours. Also, if you are to go to hospital, then you follow the government guidelines and wear a mask, and wash your hands as much as possible. And it's again, it's just keeping yourself safe and also other people around you.
So on the subject of masks, now you have a mask. You've shown me that you have a mask with you now. Do you mind just holding that up one for us? So now these are the disposable masks. that obviously you'll see a lot of people wearing. Now, I know that I have witnessed people who just literally keep those in their coat pocket or in their bag, and they are their everyday mask because they need to pop into town or get out, get some fuel or anything. I mean, these are, as it says on the tin, these are disposable and they are not for everyday use, are they?
No. Well, for starters, the amount of bacteria would be in someone's pocket. I dread to think what sort of things have been in that been in the pocket. So that's only going to transfer onto these. And if you're going to be putting them on your mouth, then I don't think it's not protecting you very well. And you get people who walk about with it like this.
Mm-hmm.
Or my manager calls this the chin hammock. It's the favourite one where they have it on the chin like this.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think you're protecting your mouth and nose and you've got
Yep.
your apron on, you're not protected here. So the amount of bacteria you've got here, and then you then put your mask down there and then put it up again, again, you're sort of defeating the object, really. But
So
sorry.
No, carry on. Go on. What was you going to say?
You need to, in order, whether you're protecting yourself and others from the droplets and that come out of your mouth when you talk, you sneeze, you cough. So you need to be covering your nose and your mouth, but it needs to be secure on the nose so you get a good seal at the top and also limited amount of gappage here. I mean,
can you do me a favour? Can you put that back on for me? I just want to make a point while that's on, if you do not mind. I'm going to just make a point. You have your mask on, and I can hear you perfectly fine. So why is it then when people come up to me or they want to have a conversation, they believe they have to take down the mask because that's like a solid brick wall and it makes you mute? Do you find that quite a lot as well? A lot of people are pulling them down to have a conversation, where the worst time to pull your mask down is when you're in close proximity to anybody. So as you guys will probably see that you're watching out, you can hear Laura perfectly fine. So if you are wearing a mask, just remember that, you don't have to pull it down. You don't have to take it off. Literally, as you've said, limit the gappage on the side of the mask the best you can. But you can buy masks everywhere now, and obviously there are people there that are making a very quick buck out of the COVID-19 situation. I'm angry, but also very, a little bit jealous that obviously somebody's come up with their ideas that there's different shapes and sizes, of masks now. I'm seeing people who are just taking old rags, old parts of dresses, curtains, sticking a bit of bungee around the side of it, sticking it over their face. I mean, it's not going to be NHS approved or government approved, but surely something is better than nothing, wouldn't you say?
I agree. Yeah, I do agree. But obviously, when you're going into shops and things like that, just covering your nose and face, like you say, it's better than nothing. You're in there for what, 10, 15 minutes, but you're still sort of protecting yourself from others. And it's common sense, really. I mean, it's not hard just to put a mask on when, following government guidelines. We're all supposed to be working together, and if we all just work together and knuckle down and get this all sorted, and hopefully it'll be over quicker than what we hope.
Yeah, I think I'm not here to, argue the case about what isn't real. And for those that are in certain areas of the country that have now gone into tier 3, and for those that you don't know, there is a medium, high, and an extremely high, or whatever they've done. They've done 3 different tiers. Now, I know that Manchester is one of these places that has just gone into tier 3. They're thinking about Liverpool and parts of London as well, that they're going into these tier 3s. Now, if I heard that I was going to be going into a tier 3 lockdown, people are going to come around and knock on my doors and stuff, sort of thing, regardless whether I believe it or not, I would just stick to the rules, because if you can do it for 1 week, it will save you doing it for 2 months, that sort of thing, you know. It's a case of just jump on the bandwagon, please some people, stay inside, stay safe, don't go meeting up with 10 of your mates down Witherspoons because it's 2 for 1 on Friday night. You know, you'll be back out before, you know, before Christmas, if, you know, maybe if everybody started like looking after themselves and taking it seriously. Because, you know, if I go off on a bit of a tangent, right at the beginning when COVID-19 was like very prominent in the UK and the rest of the world, and people were saying, you know, we've got to go in lockdown, people have got to stay off work, you know, those that don't need to stay at home, yada, yada, yada. I mean, I could literally skip down the main road in Suffolk at the beginning of the year, and there wasn't a car in sight, and everybody was getting along with it. People were doing what they needed to do, and that's probably where the decline of obviously cases came from, because people were looking after themselves. Now, as a human race, we don't like being told what to do, and we don't really like following rules, regardless of what people say. And I think that it's got to the end of the tether for some people, and they just can't take it anymore. Now, on two sides of that argument, I don't believe that it's always a case of it's young, youth, people who just don't want to do it anymore. I probably would presume that it's people that, for their own mental health and sanity, just can't be locked in a cube anymore. And I totally understand that. But that's the power of social media. I mean, obviously, we're doing a broadcast now live, and I don't expect everybody to do the same thing because you'll put me out of the business. But what I am saying is that it doesn't take 5 minutes of your day just to maybe pick up your phone and give somebody a FaceTime or do a video call via WhatsApp, Facebook. There are so many different, like Skype, whatever, and just say, hey, buddy, how are you doing today? What's your plans? Not much. Sitting at home, watching TV. But the fact that you've called them on video and said hello may change somebody's outlook on the day and their mood. So if you've got time, I do recommend, I don't know whether, Laura, if you agree with me, if you've got time, just check in, even with your most, you know, stable friends.
Yeah, I think it's the most important thing is to making sure everyone's all right, even all your family members and all your friends and that, because I think the amount of mental health help seekage, if you like, this year, and also, you know, not forgetting the amount of suicides that have happened this year is definitely increased somewhat, and which is really sad recently. But obviously, you know, the pandemic affects people differently in different ways, and we've got people, you know, people whose anxiety levels are at an all-time high. Even the word COVID just freaks them out. So yeah, it's important that you support each other, and, you know, maintaining health and well-being. The high levels, I mean, in terms of healthcare, the high levels of stress and exhaustion that nurses, not even just nurses, all healthcare professionals are experiencing recently has been on the increase, and the amount of sickness and things like that. So it's important that you know, organisations as a whole, as part of your you know, it's, as a manager of an organisation, it's part of the health and safety of you to keep your own health and safety and that of your employees as well. So it's better, you know, you've got to have some sort of something in place, not only for your patients but for staff as well.
We are live, and we have a question. So Kevin has asked, and I'm presuming this is probably a personal question that they want your opinion, not an NHS opinion. But what does Laura say to the COVID deniers and conspiracy theorists? I guess as a care worker and NHS worker, it must probably do your melanin when you're seeing the aftermath at work and you're seeing these people that are, you know, like you say, just taking it as a liberty, if anything.
In terms of COVID deniers and things like that, we do see people who are, I mean, it's not very often, like people who are not necessarily following the rules or anything, but that could just be lack of education. You know, they obviously don't know, they don't understand the risks and things like that. So as a professional, we then provide that education for them and training if they need it. And then just advise them, you know, that what they're, you know, obviously what they're doing is not necessarily the right thing, and this is how the right thing to do it. And obviously it's up to them what they do. I mean, as a team, we probably can't really do much for them, but obviously if we feel ourselves that we're going to be at risk due to that person not necessarily following the rules, then we can remove ourselves from that situation and then reassess at another time with sort of management and things like that. But unfortunately you're going to get people who have other opinions, which is what they're entitled to. But people just need to understand.
I think without saying it in too many words and so many foul language, I think it's a case of it's annoying. Yeah, I mean, we all come across it. I mean, we all work with at least one person. It's like, it's a conspiracy. The aliens have come down and they're trying to take our minds. There's always one. It's probably me with the alien theory, but not.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's here. People need to know that, and it's not going to go away without the support and everything of everyone else working together and following the rules that the government have provided for us. And I mean, we can't do anything else other than do as we're asked. So, it's just.
Well, Laura, it has been fantastic having you on today, just to give us a little bit of an insight into your career and obviously the NHS, and especially with what's going on with people's minds.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much for coming on. To end our show, as I do ask every guest, and it's going to be a recurring thing, I do ask if there's anything that can cheer you up right now. Do you have a song or an artist or an album of the week that you'd like to promote out there to our watchers and maybe say, maybe give this a listen? This has been stuck in my head all week.
I'd think of one that's quite relevant to the NHS. Obviously, Sir Tom for raising all his money to donate to the NHS. So probably his little song, "You'll Never Walk Alone," would be quite fitting, I think.
Yeah. I will post a link to that video from YouTube at the comments at the end of this show, so those that watch it read back can obviously go click on that. Laura, again, it has been a pleasure, and thanks very much for everybody that's tuned in to watch Laura this morning. Please, everybody, give it up for Laura David. Thank you very much. We'll catch you again soon. Cheers. Ta-da.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. But, ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much for watching Laura David. My next guest is a YouTube blogger. Now, you've probably, in your time, noticed bloggers that are blogging about handbags, trainers, cars, anything to do with a lavish lifestyle. This is totally the opposite. It's vintage, and I don't mean vintage clothing or antiques. I mean the art of anything with an engine, and probably a few years old. This guy's probably seen it and had a tinker with it. Ladies and gentlemen, can you please welcome to the show Mr. WooWoo883.
Yeah, good morning, Jason.
Hello, Nigel. How are we doing? You all right?
Yeah, I'm great, thank you.
Good. So, obviously the description there, a YouTube blogger. So, it's not, you're not there making movies or anything on YouTube. It's blogging. So, it's documenting your day-to-day life with what you enjoy. Would that be an accurate description?
Yeah, that's basically it. My channel is about what, like you say, I enjoy. Old motorbikes, old cars, messing about with bits and pieces. I just like to stick it on my channel just for anyone else who might be interested to enjoy it.
Right. So on your channel then, so we'll get into that in a minute. So you've had classic cars and bikes, and we'll see a lot of obviously bikes and cars on your YouTube videos. So why YouTube and why now? What was the reason behind YouTube for you?
I think the main reason was, in the beginning, I started my channel just to keep some videos for myself and for my family and friends. And then I decided to put it live just to see what would happen. and people started putting comments, speaking to me, and there's plenty of like-minded people out there. So it's great to make friends. And also, I'm not going to say I'm a top mechanic. I'm not a professional in any way. I like to have a laugh along the way while I'm doing basic mechanics on cars and bikes, and just have a bit of fun, really. That's what it's all about, just a bit of fun.
So, with your YouTube channel, when people go on there, so you've got, should we say, three main characters, should we say? We'll give them a personality. So people will hear you talk about Phoebe, Belinda, and Ace. So would you mind telling everybody who those three people are, or who they are, should we say?
Well, they're not actually people, they are machines. Right, start off with Phoebe is a 1967 Morris Minor. I like to do videos of driving it and also doing some maintenance on it. Sometimes people are interested on how to do things. Like I say, even with that, I'll say this is how I do it, and people might have different opinions, but also people do get something out of it sometimes. My other vehicle I've got is my BSA Bantam, which is a 1964. That's a two-stroke bike. I use that mainly as a daily ride to work on nice days when I'm not using Phoebe. I like to do work on that, keep it running. Day-to-day things what go wrong with it, I like to put it on my channel, show what's happened, how I'm going to fix it, and like I say, people are interested. And the other bike I've got, or the other thing, is Ace, the Fat Bob. That's a Harley Davidson. That's not an old vehicle. It's 2018, but you know, that's another thing people are interested in. I go out usually to ride outs, go to shows, go to visit places, and always I stick the camera on the helmet, make a video. There is a video out there actually with you, Jason, when you were on your little
on my bike. Yeah. The Invisible Man, yeah.
That's correct.
So you've got these three vehicles that obviously live in your possession, but over your video of your 2-year tenure, you've obviously dabbled in mentioning other bikes, maybe other people's bikes that you've come across, i.e. like other family members or friends that you're out with. You've maybe given a description on somebody else's bike. For example, I believe it was Top Box Gab who's appeared a few times on your YouTube video. So from watching the videos, you did a bit of should we say, a woo-woo's opinion, because he recently purchased a different bike. So you gave us a bit of a walk around that as well. So it's not necessarily just your bikes. You're giving a personal opinion, not a professional opinion, on what you see, I guess, as well in your videos.
Yeah, definitely. Like you just mentioned, Top Box Gab, we kind of followed him from when he first got his first bike. Just got himself a little 125. He progressed to obviously a bigger bike. He also had the Yamaha diversion like yours, and then he's moved on to his Aprilia. And each bike he's had, I've commented on it, not professionally, but have a laugh, talk about it. And actually, at this time, Top Box is going to be progressing to a different bike. Not sure quite what. So we will be following him on that as well.
Brilliant. Like you say, it's not all about one. So you've got a Morris Minor. Now, that's not your first or only classic car you've had. And I think when we've done a pre-interview, I think you don't have enough digits on your hand to probably go through the list of classics that's come through your hand. But if you can just give us a rough idea of your vehicle history, as in classics, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. Obviously, like you just said, I've had that many. I can't remember them all. I've had quite a few Morris Minors. I should say I've had at least 6. I've not always kept them original. In the early days of owning them, I used to have a little dabble with changing engines and things and kind of modernise, not to make them modern, just to make them a bit more faster, should we say, more like hot roddy style. But now I tend to keep them original as much as possible. I've had a couple of Spitfires. I've had some Rovers. I've had a P4, a P5. I've had a Standard 8. I had a few Minis. Yeah, I've had loads of old cars. I'm not forgetting the cars that I had when I was younger were not classics when I had them then, because they were my everyday cars, is what you'd see driving around the streets in that era. But now they are classics. So I just wish I'd have held on to them, but we can't keep everything.
So if you were lucky enough to have millions of pounds in the bank and, you know, and a garage that was stretching as far as the eye could see, you would have happily probably kept them all. And, you know, like you say, eventually some of them do have to pass ways and, you know, leave you for certain reasons in your life. But you're back with your Morris. So again, you've got your Fat Bob, which is your Harley, and then you've got your Bantam. So you would think that the more modern bike you have would be the one that you use on a more regular occasion. But in your situation, you're using Belinda the Bantam as your daily rider. So what was the theory behind that?
Basically, one, because I like I say, I just love old machines. I love old bikes. Being a small bike, it's more ideal for round town, so you can nip round the traffic, and you know it's just basically easier to use. My Harley, being a big bike, one, I like to use that if I go any distance, sometimes to bike shows or just go out and do some blogging. Also, I wouldn't want to leave my bike just sitting outside all day while I'm at work, say for instance, you know, all the weathers. It'd make me cry. But no, I'd rather just use the Bantam for riding about town, keep the Harley for special occasions.
Yeah. So as we said in our pre-interview yesterday, excuse me. So yeah, the Bantam, it's by all means, it's not a long distance bike. You ain't taking that anywhere, you know, to any sort of distance at all. So you said that you've got it as your town runner, and then your Harley, if you go on anything further or to a show or anything, then obviously there's the two differences right there in your bikes. One's a more convenient, probably economic on fuel. I'm guessing the Bantam probably doesn't drink it as much as probably a Harley does. I don't know the difference.
No, the Bantam's only a 175cc. That's a 2-stroke bike. It doesn't use much fuel at all. Also, it's just so light and manoeuvrable, and I just love it. That's brilliant. And anyone who's thinking of getting a Bantam, they're just brilliant bikes. I mean, not forgetting, in the past, the post office had Bantams as transport for the postal workers. There was hundreds, if not thousands, of Bantams on British roads. Yeah, you know, there is still hundreds and thousands about, probably in sheds and in bits, but they were built to work, and if you look after them, they'll look after you.
Simple as that. So with your Harley, if anybody has ever gone past the Harley Davidson shop at all in their lifetime, they are lovely, they are shiny, they're sitting there in the window, and any bike enthusiast, whether you're into your Sportsters or, you know, your high performance bikes, regardless, you will look at a Harley and appreciate the work that's obviously gone into it over the years. But you'll also notice that the price tag on a Harley is not something you can go with a week's wages, is it? So it's a case of you have to work up to these big bikes, because I mean, what's the engine size on that Fat Bob?
Well, that Fat Bob is 114 cubic inch, which is about an 1850. It's a big old lump, and it's quite a powerful bike. It's not a fast bike. I mean, you'll do the speed limits, you'll do over 100 mph if you wanted to, but this is not what type of bike that's about. This is more for cruising around. They're what you call got a lot of low end torque, so you can be going along 30 mph, just pull back the throttle without changing down any gears, and that'll just pull away, take you up to 70 mph. Sports bikes, we all know what they are, and there's a lot of followers for different bikes. I don't understand why you get some people who ride Harleys and don't like sports bikes. Well, everyone's got their own idea, but we're all on two wheels, you know, we're all bikes. I don't mind what people ride, whether they ride a moped, whether they ride a scooter. You know, as to me, just being out on a bike is the thing. But everyone
That size engine is probably bigger than any modern day car that is being released now, because they're all on eco 1 litre engines. So that's like you say, it's a substantial engine size and torque. I mean, when you say torque, it's not a sports bike. It doesn't go off the line at 900 miles an hour. But I bet probably the best way to describe it to those that don't have motorbikes is it would be the equivalent of having like a good old diesel. You know, it's not a sports car, but it will pull and it will take you where you need to go. Would you say
exactly. So? People describe Harleys as tractors. They have done over the years. I mean, back in the old times, Harleys were used on racetracks. They were quite ahead at the time. But with modern technology, metric bikes, they got left behind. But Harley, I believe, have done it deliberately. They don't want to move into that market. Obviously, they're getting more modern. Some of the old Harleys haven't changed over the years, but just of lately, they are starting to go for the younger rider, trying to put more technology in. A lot of the die-hard old Harley riders don't like them, but I guess they've got to move forward with the times. But I don't think they'll ever be like main sports bikes. They'll always be more a cruiser type.
Just to obviously to reiterate, if anybody does have a question for Nigel, please put it in the comments and we will ask it. Anything related to classic cars, motorbikes, if he knows the answer, we'll obviously hopefully try and get that answer out of you. So I keep saying, Nigel, your YouTube name is WooWoo883. Now, to me, that makes no sense whatsoever, and to others, they probably don't understand either. So would you mind just explaining to us where the YouTube name comes from, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure. Like I said, when I first started my channel, that was purely for myself and family members, like grandkids, my children. I say children, they're all adults. Basically, when I started the channel, I used the name WooWoo because all my grandchildren know me as Grandad WooWoo. Being so that my oldest grandchild, or my first grandchild, when she was a baby, whenever I saw her, I used to always say, woo woo. And she started answering that back. And it's kind of stuck with me. And now, like I say, all my grandchildren call me woo woo. So when I started my channel, I just thought, what name should I use? And I picked that. And when I did pick that, for some reason, it didn't allow it, whether someone else had used it, I'm not sure. So I just added 883. Because at that time, I'd had a Harley Davidson Sportster 883, and that's simply that.
Just put the two together. WooWoo 883. There you go. You've got a YouTube channel.
Yep, and I've just left it like that. I mean, I did think in early days when I started to put my channel out to the public, should I change it to, I don't know, bikes and cars or whatever. But no, I've decided to leave it as it is because, you know, once you've done it, you've done it. I don't see any need for change.
You've got somewhat of a bit of a following. I mean, you've got subscribers, obviously a fair few to your YouTube channel, and I'm guessing you're becoming, because I've seen you out on your bike, so you do have WooWoo883 on the back of a hoodie or something that you wear, don't you, in the summer when you're going out in light gear? So people do recognize you, and they probably do when you go to these bike meets, have probably seen you now over the months and years, and probably know who you are. Um, Speaking about bike meets, I'd like to get your opinion on what kind of age group you're seeing. I mean, is there an influx of younger people now starting to ride bikes? Because I mean, there was a brief period that just nobody was really getting on bikes, and it seems now that although when you're 16 you can have a 50cc moped or 125 nowadays, but then a lot of them were just leaving it as that. They were getting their cars and they were off. Are you seeing a lot more at bike meets now, younger people taking up the bigger bikes?
Yeah, definitely. Going to, like you say, bike meet, bike shows, there is a variety. Yeah, all ages. And also the increasing number I've noticed of lady riders as well. You know, you see these big old Harleys and big old sports bikes, and when you see them turn up and they've got, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with ladies riding bikes, I'm just so surprised that they must have nerves of steel, because, you know, I think it takes quite a lot of nerve to take on a big bike, but
Hmm.
obviously more and more so nowadays, people are doing it.
Hmm. I think that's a good thing as well, because you know, off topic somewhat, there are more bike motorsports with females in them now on mainstream. You'll see them on the TV. There are a lot more riders. Uh, I think probably the answer, and I think we've asked you this as well, having a bigger bike, although it is bigger and more powerful, it probably gives you that somewhat small bit of self-security on safety, because the bigger you are, surely the better you are to be seen, would you say?
Yeah, I suppose the bigger the bike, you're going to be seen, I guess. But I feel more sturdy for going long distance on a bigger bike. Say, like, if I was going long distance, I'd want to be on a decent amount of bike.
Hmm.
One, for capability, you know, you want to be cramped up on a smaller bike, and two, you know, just having a bigger bike for that journey.
Yeah. So we're talking about bikes, bike meets and stuff like that. If we don't mind, so I've got here, this is my melon. This is the one that I wear in the summer. It's very sleek. It's mine. What I have noticed, and what somebody said to me, I don't know if you noticed this as well. So you'll have this little badge on the back, which apparently says that it's certified by a certain brand or ability. Now, I don't know if that's something that's mandatory on bikes, but should you, when you buy a motor helmet, is there meant to be like at least a certain sticker you're looking for? Do you know?
Yeah, certainly. When you buy a helmet, you should be looking for that label, especially, well, say like you had an accident. I'm not saying this could happen, but if you weren't wearing a registered helmet, then maybe your insurance could say, hang on a minute, this guy has got this injury because he was wearing a skateboard helmet, that sort of thing. There is plenty of helmets on the market. I mean, I do own one myself, which is probably not UK registered. It's got the DOT, which is American market. A lot of Harley riders wear these simply because they've got like a smaller shell. They hug the head, so you don't look like a big head. But they are safe enough for the American market, but for some reason they're not recognised in this country as being a safety factor. But that's a strange one.
Um, with the weather obviously starting to deteriorate, and obviously it's getting dark earlier around the UK. I mean, could you just tell any motorcycle rider out there, you know, just maybe one or two tips that would probably be different for summer ride, and then maybe what to watch out for, you know, in the winter if this is their first winter? Any like tips? Should they be wearing anything different or doing anything different?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, if you're a new rider, that's going to come as a bit of a shock going out into different weathers, into the dark. I mean, personally myself, if it comes to the winter, I wouldn't ride my bike. Simple as that. I'd stick it in the garage, cover it up. I'll probably still ride the Bantam around town because I find that's more of a different thing. But definitely, you've got to make yourself be seen. You can just wear a high vis, or you can just wear a complete wet coat, wetsuit. You might get people rip into you for wearing this gear, but at the end of the day, it's for your safety, because people are not going to see you coming down the road on a black motorcycle with a black leather jacket, a black helmet, doing 30 miles an hour. It's probably raining, it's getting slightly dark. They're not going to notice you, and it's going to be, we didn't see you. But if you've got all the gear on, you've got your lights on, most motorcycles nowadays, your headlight will stay on anyway. But some of the older bikes, you need to turn them on. Make sure you wear right. I ride with my lights on all the time because I think that makes it safer. People are, like I say, got the dark gear, dark helmets. I mean, one of the most easiest thing to do is get yourself a light coloured helmet. Say, like in the winter, stick a white helmet on. It's surprising how much you can see a white helmet on a motorcycle.
Yeah, I've got myself a white winter helmet that I use. Obviously, it's a flip-up helmet, obviously for conditions. But yeah, if I was going out now on my bike, FYI, it is torrential rain in Cumbria right now. I'm not going out on that. But if I was to go out over the winter, it'd be white helmet. I mean, I posted a picture. Excuse me, I'm dark off. The other day. So I got these. Now you'll again, any sort of high vis or color is going to stand out better than black. So I mean, if you've got the facilities or the ability to pop into your local bike store, get yourself something with a bit of color for the winter. It will make all of the difference. Back to motor vehicles. Now, so classics. You've had classics over the years, as in like Morris Minors and whatnot. So if I was a young person watching this channel now and I go, man, I love my classic cars, I'm going to go get one. I mean, it's not all rainbows and lollipops, is it? I'm guessing getting a classic car. They come with classic car problems, I'm sure.
Definitely. If you're going to buy a car, no matter what it be, I mean, if you're going for a sports car or a big sort of expensive classic car, then you probably need to know something about it anyway. But if you've got that kind of money, maybe you're going to have someone look after it. But if you're just a young guy or a guy like me, who's not got thousands of pounds, and you're starting off for a nice little classic, you've got to be prepared to do some work yourself. You've got to keep on top of it. So I would say do some research into the cars first before you buy one. Nowadays, the modern cars are so much different. You don't see them broke down everywhere. Old cars, you used to see them broken down, but usually they were easily fixed. They were probably just something like adjusting the points. You say that to a young mechanic nowadays, points? What's that? It's electronic ignition. You know, they sound complicated, but to be honest, classic cars and the way they run are quite simple. Once you know the basics, the electrics and the fuel, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. It's so easy to work on.
So in our pre-interview yesterday, you mentioned the Haynes manual. And again, probably maybe a 16, 17-year-old is probably going to go, what's a Haynes manual? Would you say that to any classic car enthusiast, it's probably like the next equivalent to the Bible? Having one of those under your back seat will probably save you a lot of time.
Definitely, but if you've got a car for a while, you obviously tend to learn how it works. You know what's going to go wrong. As soon as it starts going wrong, you've got a good idea. But if you've got no idea, the Haynes manual is, like you say, the Bible. I mean, I'm the worst enemy for having manuals. I quite often, if people watch my channel, they'll realise I like to have a look at things, suss out how they work. Sometimes I can fix it. Sometimes I'll have to have a quick look in the book and think, oh, that's how it works. But yeah, definitely, if you've never done any sort of work before, get yourself a manual. Before you do anything, have a quick look. That'll explain to you how to take something apart, how to put it together correctly, rather than just having to go like I do.
On your YouTube channel then, do you have anything lined up in the upcoming weeks or months that maybe people want to know about? Is there something that you're going to be probably doing? You said yesterday that because of the weather, you're probably going to give Phoebe the Morris Minor a bit more airtime on your channel. Is that about right?
Yeah, that is about right. I mean, yeah, I probably won't be using my Harley much, although I did go out on it yesterday with Top Box. Yeah, I think that's going to get further and further out on the Harley. I might still use the Bantam a bit, but definitely be more attention to using the Moggy. Yeah, who knows on that one, but and in the future, I've just finished fixing up a Yamaha Townmate. I don't know whether you've seen it on my channel, but people out there might do, or people might be interested. I bought a bike which had been kept in a shed for a few years with a leaky roof. That was pretty rusty. That needed some repairs. I bought it for X amount of pounds. Spent a little bit of money on it, a lot of time on it. Not completely restored it, just got it back to roadworthy status, got an MOT on it, and I'm going to sell it on. So now I'm looking for a new project. Something cheap, I can turn around quickly, use on my channel, and make someone else happy.
Yeah, I've seen, because like you say, I've been keeping up with your channel. So you've gone through the initial arrival stage of this Yamaha Townmate. And you've gone through, you've taken it apart, you've taken the wheels off, the hubs, obviously checked the brakes, the tyres, even the electricals and all sorts. I mean, you've not held back. I mean, would you say that that's probably a good start bike for anybody that wanted to be able to maintain a little bike? Because it's probably, you know, right up there with probably the bare minimum basics that you probably need to keep something on the road, would you say?
Yeah, they're quite simple bikes. And the good thing about them little Townmates, they're very similar to the old Honda Crunch boxes. They're a very, very similar setup. With this particular one, it's got no chain. It's got a shaft drive to turn the back wheel, so you've got no chain to worry about. From what I can work out, these are very simple bikes to ride and to work on. No clutch, they're just a fun thing to have for round town. And to be honest, if I didn't have the Bantam, I'd probably look at keeping that for round town.
Well, it seems like it's just a no-brainer. It's a nice, small little bike. It's going to be nippy around town. I mean, it's going to hit that 30 miles an hour and do what you need it to do around town to and from work. It's inexpensive to keep the maintenance up. I mean, you said yourself on there, the parts are a dime a dozen, and you know they are literal. It's just basic knowledge to be able to fix your bike. You'll be able to see WooWoo being able to put that bike back together to roadworthy MOT standard on his YouTube channel, and that is WooWoo883. I will put a link to his YouTube channel in the comments after this video, and it is for sale now. I have seen it is up on Gumtree and other services, so if you do fancy having a look for an inexpensive bike to get yourself on two wheels, or the same as Nigel here, giving yourself a second bike for around town in the winter hack, you can't go too far wrong with one of those. And there, from what I can see in your videos, it squeezes into a very small space into your garage, so it doesn't take up a lot of room either.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I haven't got a lot of garage, mate, but yeah, I found like just manoeuvring it round, it's just so light and easy to manoeuvre. So definitely a little bike to just stick in the garage and use in the winter or whatever. Yeah, definitely.
Right. Well, I'll also put a cheeky link to that as well, so people can have a look at it. Worst case scenario, people can look at it and maybe pass on the information if they know somebody that's looking for a little bike as well. Do they come under? If not, would you say that they're coming under their own little classics? Because, like you say, you probably don't see too many of them anymore, do you? Really on the roads, I'm guessing.
No, when I first looked at it, I thought, you know, it's not really that old. I mean, but it's 30 years old. It's not up for any free road tax or anything as yet, because now they've changed the rules. But that's deep to run anyway. Probably only about 20 quid a year to tax it. But yeah, there's quite a following. If you look on Facebook, there is a page just literally with people who appreciate them little bikes. I did have a look to see how many were left on the road, and apparently there's only about 19 left on the road. There's a few been sold, so out in sheds and garages across the country, there's bikes to be had. But yeah, actually on the road at the minute, are saying there's only about 19 bikes.
So what you're saying is, if you want to be the talk of the town, mate, all right, you want to get yourself something that nobody else is going to have in your area. So I mean, whenever you turn up anywhere and people go, "What on earth are you riding?" That is this conversation starter right there. So not only are you getting yourself a good little bike to run around town at a reasonable price, you're getting a conversation starter and probably a classic for the future, because you know, if there's not many being used out there, they're going to be just like finding unicorns. On that classic thing, we said yesterday there's an argument, and I'm guessing it's a big argument. What defines classic? What, in your opinion, Nigel, what do you define as a classic?
In my mind, I think anything which is probably 20, 25 years old is and still going, still about, is amazing in this day and age of throwaway products. Obviously, people will have different opinion, but yeah, I think anything which is 20, 25 years old probably, in my mind, is a classic. And anything they stop making is a future classic. Even anything you've got now, even your little bike, what you've on there, if you keep that in good nick, a few years' time, they're slowly disappearing. That'll be a classic.
I've probably got to stop dropping it then. Like you say, I mean, so the bike meet. So you're based in Suffolk. So I believe, your range, depending on, there will be bike meets. Probably not now because obviously the winter's coming down. There's still a few. Is there still a few that people could probably come and see you at in the upcoming weeks? Are they still doing any locally?
I don't think there's too much going on. They may still have like the bike night thing going on at Caister. I haven't been over there for the last about 4 weeks. I mean, the weather's been atrocious. We haven't gone a week without rain almost every day at some point. I think basically the actual bike night thing is gone. There's been 1 or 2 ride outs going out. I mean, I've noticed, I've joined a little group what does a ride out. That's the Harley Club Norfolk. They say Norfolk, but anyone's allowed to go in it. You haven't even got to have a Harley. You can go on their ride out.
Take your tail.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend taking a small bike, but yeah, they're still been doing just some small little meetups, little ride outs. So yeah, you can still get out and about on your bikes. This year, to be honest, has been not very good, obviously, for obvious reasons, that a lot of the classic car shows, one big meet I always go to, excuse me, like the Grand Hen and Steam Rally. I've been going to that since I was a child with my dad. I've never, ever probably missed one. This year, cancelled. That was quite sad, really, but this just showing what the times are. But I'm sure they'll be back next year, and I'll be there with probably the Bantam and Phoebe. So
yes,
hopefully this the year coming up will be more bike shows. I mean, there was just absolutely loads. Looked at car shows, bike shows, and thought, yeah, I'll go to that. I'm going to that. You know how it is. Get to about a week before cancelled.
Hmm.
Just a shame.
Yeah,
So it
it is
is.
a shame. Obviously, I wouldn't say that COVID-19 has ruined the lives of many bikers, but it has put a dampener on the idea of being able to do what we do best, and that is meet up, have a good chat, see different types of bikes. I mean, that is a buyer's market, isn't it? I mean, if you go to a bike meet, you may not even know that you wanted that bike, and you've got somebody there, and you've gone, I've wanted the Kawasaki Ninja or whatever it was. I mean, that was my bike when I was younger. I mean, the Kawasaki Ninja, growing up, early 90s, going down, and it had like a bright green or a bright orange color, if I remember rightly. They weren't very quiet bikes either. But, you know, you'd be able to go to a bike meet, see these bikes up close and go, you know, that's for me. And, you know, the community spirit. I'd like to point out for those that look at bikers, if you look at Nigel now, he doesn't have long hair, a big beard, all right? He's not full of like knuckle dusters and wants to punch you because he rides a Harley and he hates you. There's a stigma about motorcycle riders that, you know, you know, Harley riders are these big brutish men, but, you know, you could probably put that to sleep right there. You probably wouldn't find a more helpful, cuddlier person than a Harley rider. I don't know.
You're probably quite right there. I mean, like I say, I went out, met some guys. We went out on the doorbell. Hang on, get that. Yeah, I went out with this Harley Norfolk people. They had a little ride out up to Cromer. And when I got there was all ages, you know, from youngsters to olders, but there was quite a lot of older guys, should I say. And
Hmm.
you couldn't meet a better bunch of people. No one was rude or nasty. Everyone was happy, friendly, and just talk about anything. You know,
Hmm.
you'll be surprised how people are when you go to bike meets. No one is there to say that they're better than you. It's just all friendly.
Well, so from what I've taken from today's show is, please make sure you check out WooWoo883 on YouTube today, or at least over this weekend. Go and check it out. He's got loads of videos on there going through the Morris Minor from the Bantam, and obviously up to date with the Harley Davidson and previous Harley Davidson. What was the silver one that you had on there beforehand?
The silver one, that was a Harley Davidson Fat Bob. That was a Dyna model.
Yeah.
Yeah, 96 cubic inch Dyna
Yeah.
Fat Bob.
Right, we're going to love you and leave you, Nigel. I'm going to let you get off. Obviously, you've got visitors and whatnot. But thank you very much for coming on the show. If you do have any questions for Nigel, either leave them in the comments and he may comment back later on, or get in touch directly on his YouTube channel for any more information on any of his cars and bikes. So we'll say thanks very much and ta-da for now, Nigel.
Yeah, thanks for having me, mate. Goodbye. Bye, everyone.
Cheers, ta-da. Well, thank you very much for everybody joining our show today. My name's been Jason Robinson, and just remember that, as I said at the beginning of the show, the crisis that is going on in the world right now with COVID-19 is not a pleasant one, and it will put people's mental health at strain. Whether you know anybody that has, you know, an upbeat well-being may also be suffering. So please take some time out, message your friends and family, ask them how they are. It might just change somebody's life. My name's been Jason Robinson. Thanks very much for today watching Chaturday Live, and we'll see you all again next week. Ta-da now.